Anyway, so let's get started over here. Dave will jump in as soon as he can, if he can.
No, we're keeping him out.
We'll see where he is.
He's barred.
He doesn't get to come to the party.
He's out of the loop.
It's all good. It's all good because we got Cliff over here. Not a big deal. So, thank you to to this recent episode of 40 and Fit, right? We'd like to thank you for coming on and sharing some information with us. My name is John Baruch. I am the host of the gang. To my left, we've got Mike Hoban, and to the right, we've got Cliff, aka Phil. Well, I don't. Yeah, one of the members of the gym gave him the wrong name. Apparently, they've been calling him Phil.
And a promotion.
Yeah, apparently he's my assistant manager, but he's not. It's okay.
She was 0 for 2. Sorry.
Yeah, she wrong name, wrong position. I had no idea who she was talking about. It was the weirdest thing. But anyway, so Pam.
Yes.
One big I'm the type of guy that just jumps in with both feet, right? So one thing that people are asking who we were gonna have on this week, and I was like, oh, it's this cool chick named Pam who goes through this biohacking thing, and everyone's like, what's biohacking? I go, be honest with you, all I saw was it's like DIY biology type thing.
And you got Mike. I mean, Mike is like, the OG. He was a biohacker before I even knew what the heck it was. I mean, no, sir, Mike, you're shaking your head. You were on Dave Asprey's podcast. What year was that? I mean, it's a thing. But
I was a guest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like Mike's the real deal. He flies under the radar, but he's the real deal. But I'm happy to give, I guess, my 5-second definition of biohacking. In the simplest sense, it's using as much information as we can, right? So as much science, as much data, real information as we can about our biology to get better results. And so, yes, that includes shortcuts. That includes getting better results faster, getting better results for our bodies as opposed to someone else's bodies, because our bodies are all unique, have unique bio-individualization. And there are a lot of advancements that science has found more recently that get much, much better results biochemically for our health and fitness. So it seems kind of silly not to look into them and start to play with them and do it yourself to get a sense of what works for you. And there's lots of ways to track and measure and optimize. And so it is a bit of a citizen scientist pursuit these days, because it takes a lot of money out of the more traditional healthcare system. And it is a pain in the butt to get any kind of real FDA or medical device approvals. And all the research that is required to get that is very cost prohibitive. And so, biohacking tends to be more kind of under the radar. If you know, and you do it yourself. And it's pretty awesome.
I think I like the word you said, more citizen scientist, and that makes, that's a really good way to put it, right? I do believe in it, and just looking more into it. Again, my answer to other people is just a little silly, just because I want people to listen, right? So because I get tuned in to understand what's happening, right? I don't want to give you my answer, but I do believe in it. I think that modern medicine at this point, I don't say modern medicine, Western medicine, whatever type of medicine it is, it's financially killing us, right? And because we're relying on other people, on the general public, rather than what we know about ourselves, right? Even culturally.
Well, and it's profits versus people. I mean, it's an industry. And so medicine, big pharma, it's business. Dollars, yeah. And I'm praying that there is this renaissance where leadership is becoming more heart-centered and socially responsible. And so I do believe that more and more businesses are going to be run by leaders who put people before profits. And I would say it's probably still the exception rather than the rule. And there's so much money at stake. The government's involved. It's a tough situation. So wherever we can take our power back and be our own advocates, because we're always going to know our bodies better than a doctor anyway. I mean, you go see a doctor and they're looking at everything through really kind of limited lenses, because how much time do they actually have to spend with you? I mean, I have a lot of friends who are doctors. They're all really, really good people. I have nothing but good things to say about doctors, and everybody's doing their best, and they're stuck in a system that's broken too because of all the health insurance limitations that are put on them. Exactly. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity for all of us to advocate for ourselves. And figure out how to get better results, for ourselves. And there's so much information now available because of this interwebs thing that you may have heard of. So you can go online and Google. Yeah, but you don't want to like Google and then like read all the symptoms and like what could possibly be wrong. Don't do that. You want to read about different ways that people have gotten, positive results for your symptoms. So don't do the thing that a lot of people do where you Google your symptoms and you decide that you have all these horrible things wrong with you. Don't do that, because what you think, placebo is real. You have like a 30%, 33% chance of, if you think it, that alone will help it come to pass. So use that to your advantage, not disadvantage. Don't Google and decide that you've got some horrible disease. Google to be like, hey, I'm having, nerve pain or these slight symptoms that are impacting your quality of life, and see what are the ways that you can tweak your lifestyle to get better results. And then some of the things may be more in the biohacking realm, where you can look into light or PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field, or water, or patches like Mike uses. There's so many things out there that really do work. And running my facility for the 2 years that I was able to run it, I was able to do a lot of that citizen scientist work with 1,000 or so clients to see what works. And some things work for some people. Nothing is a one size fits all. And so everybody has to be willing and open to try for themselves, and then see what works.
So let's get into the business in itself. How did you actually get into for yourself? Number one, you started off just doing this for yourself, and then you obviously figured that you'd be able to help other people, and then the business just emerged from there. Like, how did this all start?
Yeah, so basically I became a personal trainer after I had my second child. So that was back in 2008. And like most trainers, I did it the old fashioned way. I was spending a lot of time working myself out. I was working out my clients. I always worked out with my clients. So I was working out 4 to 6 hours a day. So of course I was in great shape. But then I took a job. I went back to work running a behavioral therapy based food and weight business.
Okay.
And so suddenly, being the mom that wanted to bring their kids to school and then also pick their kids up from school, I was lucky if I had 20 minutes a day to work out. And so I started becoming a little bit more curious and doing some more research on ways to be more efficient with my exercise. Started following people like Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield. And there was a guy, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Mind Valley, but it's a personal development company out of Kuala Lumpur, I think, Malaysia. And this guy, Vishen Lakhiani, who founded that company, did a podcast with this other guy named Lorenzo Delano. And Lorenzo was studying a lot of the body by science, Doug McGuff protocols, where it's the high intensity workout, super slow, super heavy. And so Vishen and Lorenzo had a conversation, and that's really what piqued my interest. That was the first time I'd heard about those protocols. And I found Lorenzo, I stalked him. First time I ever heard someone on podcast, and found them, and then ended up being able to talk to him. And he ended up coaching me for a while and teaching me a lot of what ended up inspiring me to start Hacked, because then I got bit by the bug. I wanted to play with all the toys, and no one in New York City had them. And some of them were way too expensive for me to just buy and put in my house. So I figured I'd make a business out of it.
Wow. What year was this when you started the business?
2018.
And how did you actually start marketing this type of thing? Like how would people actually find this method, rather than was it just general personal training at first?
So no, I mean, we had a location on 7th Avenue, and we had an awning. And the tagline, we had an awning. And so the tagline,
it was a very nice awning too.
It was a really nice awning. And the day that I put the awning up, people just started coming in.
Really?
I think I did a decent job with the branding. I did it all myself, but the Hacked was the name, and the tagline was smarter, faster fitness. And I had little flyers that I put on the door so people could walk by and take the flyers. And who doesn't want smarter, faster fitness?
Right.
So, I'm like,
I get it.
yeah. So people just started coming, and then people loved it, and people told their friends, and I started, doing things on Instagram, and Ben Greenfield came, which was great when that happened, and people like Mike came, and it was just very organic, and it was good.
So it was successful to a certain point, because even looking through your website, I was like, wow, you have a lot of people that you have working under you, a lot of co-founder stuff. But what happened? So you're not running the business anymore?
COVID happened.
Oh.
You may have heard that we had a global pandemic.
I don't know about it. I like staying home.
You may have heard. Yeah, you stay home. You don't go out. You don't know. So COVID happened, and March 16th, we were forced to shut down. And I tend to be a pretty intuitive person. I knew that we weren't going to open back up anytime soon. My gut was like, there was no way by September we were going to open back up. And my lease was actually up technically in September, although I already had a falling out with my landlady and she was in the process of trying to evict me anyway. So that actually was great because I was able to get out of the lease sooner and save a good amount of cash on the lease. And I knew that, you know, when it was time to open back up, I could find a better real estate deal. So that's what I'm in the process of doing now. Just to make things a little bit more complicated, we also already had decided to rebrand the business. I had some pretty awesome clients that were really savvy in marketing and branding, and they felt like the name Hacked had some limitations that they were excited about pitching me on some other angles on how to build the business. And so I followed their lead. And before the pandemic, we had already decided to rebrand. And the name we chose was Portal, which is PRTL.
Right.
And so when we reopen, it's going to be under Portal. And basically, we launched Portal during COVID and have been doing virtual coaching. We started an app. We kind of expanded because Hacked was very focused on biohacking. And the reality of what we were doing at Hacked was much more holistic, kind of integrative fitness, mind, body, and energetic. And so that's one of the things that they really wanted to capture in the new branding. That was much more kind of overall transformation. And it's not, some people think of a hack as a shortcut or something that's a fad and not
Right.
legit. You know, it's like you're not doing it legit. And there's nothing not legit about what we were doing. And so we still talk about biohacking, passionate about biohacking, and Portal's more about this holistic transformation with as much efficiency as possible. So it's still smarter, faster fitness. It's fitness for life, mind, body, and energetic.
Are you looking to just stay in Manhattan in the city? You're still, is that what you're looking?
So I'm actually in talks right now to partner with a guy who is opening up locations in Toronto, Miami, and New York. And so I'd have locations in Toronto, Miami, and New York really soon. So that's one of the possibilities. I'm not a think small kind of girl because I just, life isn't, yeah, I mean, I love life and I am about making an impact and I tend to be a pretty high energy person and I just have big visions and I care a lot about helping people. And so the plan isn't just New York, whether it's a franchise, whether it's, you know, a virtual coaching presence that allows what we teach to get out there more. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it, but there's also a software as a service business model piece to this to support people too. So that's, yeah.
So you have people working under you that work under your methodology, or are you doing like just most of the coaching itself? How does the business actually work in itself right now?
Right now is quite constricted. Right now, I'm down to 2 people on my team. My team, fortunately, everybody is amazing and really excited about coming back. So I have a lot of loyalty on my team because it was a family and I really cared about the people and really encouraged everybody to bring out who they really are and share and make an impact individually as well as kind of collectively. So proud about that. And right now, definitely, you know, much more constrained on the team side. So I've got a director of coaching who does most of the coaching. I coach a couple people, but in terms of the balance of all the different things that I'm juggling, me being a full-time coach is not the best use of my time. But my director of coaching, she's who helped me standardize the coaching process, the coaching program. Yeah. And so that's standardized, ready to be, you know, really scaled. And so that's ready to go. So the good news about COVID is that it really gave us the time and the space to really nail the coaching program, which it was really, really hard for me to do that at the same time as I was running and growing Hacked, you know, boots on the ground. So right now we're lean, we're lean and we're ready to expand again.
Cool. I mean, it's weird. Just as you're talking, I have so many ideas and we have so many connections that I'm liking the idea so much. And I'm like, wow, something to expand to is northern New Jersey. Clearly, Bergen County is an area of which there's no shortage of money, even though they might think so. But there's a good amount of people that would possibly, and I have a good amount of connections that would possibly want to be involved, included in this business. Because I did look into it a little bit more, and I was like, wow, I actually like, even just speaking to you alone, I'm like, wow, I like the direction you're going in with it.
It's very complementary. It's very complementary to other training methods, right? So if someone is a competitive athlete, they're going to continue to train in the specialized way that they're going to train.
Right.
If someone really loves to run and they want to continue to run, great. It complements whatever people's true passion is. And if someone's not particularly passionate about fitness, but knows that they need to do it in order to have the health span, the longevity, and be a mom who's playing with her kids, and one day a grandmother is playing with their kids, and have that quality of life. A lot of the clients that I ended up working closely with that really loved what we were doing. I'll never forget, she became a dear friend. She said to me, Pam, I love you. I'm never going to love this. Cause I'm like, I love working out so much and getting uncomfortable. And she like, and I'm like, so, kind of Energizer bunny-ish and happy about all of this. And she's just like, I love you. This I'm never going to love. I come here because it's the quickest, fastest, most effective way that I can check the box and know that I'm caring for my body. And I'm like, all right. But I'm still going to make it fun, as fun as possible.
Hey, at least it's working, right?
Yeah. Everything's quantified. So, we at Hacked, we had the Fit 3D scans. So you had the quantification of your body composition, your measurements. On the strength training side, we had the ARX. So all of your strength and overall workload was quantified. And then on the cardio side, we had the Carol bike, which quantified your power and your overall output. So everything was quantified. So, it's demonstrating that it's working. And because you guys know, our minds make up a lot of stories and we tell ourselves things, and it's not always true. So that is good.
Talk a little bit about the equipment you just mentioned, ARX and Carol, because I think a lot of the people who listen to this aren't necessarily familiar with those. So
sure. So the ARX was the real reason why I started Hacked, because I fell in love with that machine and no one in New York City had it. And the deal with the ARX is it's a machine that it's isokinetic. So it moves, and it moves at a steady rate. And you're actually the one who's working against the machine. So at no point are you holding weight where you could possibly, have a muscle tear or get out of alignment and then be holding weight that's too heavy and get injured. Instead, you're the one who's actually working against the machine. The machine is just moving and then measuring what the force production is. So it's a really, really safe way to train. And since you're the one controlling the resistance, you're able to, if you want, work at a maximal resistance rate, both on the eccentric and the concentric.
Screw drive motor. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so it's like a gear motor, right? So it's moving. If you're like in the lowering phase, so you're like, suppose you're doing a chest press and it's the eccentric, so the plate is moving towards you, or the bar is moving towards you, and you're resisting. You can resist a lot more lowering weight than you can create a force when you're lifting the weight. And normally it's really, really hard to have that kind of eccentric load increased, much less increased perfectly. And then ultimately, because you have this perfect kind of maximal resistance training, it really becomes a mental game. It's like, how long can you stay steady at an incredibly difficult force output, which is incredibly uncomfortable? And so that's where your breath becomes really important. Your mental game becomes really important, and you can see it. And so like, if you guys were to come in and Hacked and I did a session with you on the ARX, I'd be able to tell right away where your mental game was. Like, how steady are you under pressure, literally and figuratively? Like, under fire, are you steady Eddie, or are you all over the place? And it's it demonstrates where the physical and the mental really, really meet. And so the ARX, incredible tool in terms of minimal amount of time under work, right? Like 1 minute and 45 seconds per exercise. Usually I just do the big 5 with people. So that's under 20 minutes with rest. So we like have about 12 minutes under tension in a normal set. And that's it, you're done. Most people then need between 4 and 8 days of rest. So most people, once a week is all you got to do. So once a week, about 12 minutes of work, and you'll see gains from that. It's really like hard to believe until you actually see it. So that's the strength training side. You don't really get anything power on that machine. It's just pure strength. You obviously get bone density because you're holding such heavy weight. On the cardio and power side, when it comes to your legs, it's a bike. So you're pedaling, right? So you get power as you pedal, and you're getting the cardiovascular fitness. And the way that the Carol bike works, it uses artificial intelligence and an advanced algorithm to basically take you through an assessment. So the first 6 times you ride the bike, it's assessing your fitness level. After 6 times, it knows the perfect resistance for you. And then you do the bike ride. It's a 9-minute and 40-second total experience. The first 2 minutes, you're just warming up. You're basically walking through the park. There's no resistance. It's not like a typical spin class in the least. You're walking. There's no resistance. All of a sudden, if you listen to the tiger track, you're getting chased by a tiger. The resistance comes on and you got to sprint. And so it takes you to fatigue in one 20-second sprint. And you'll feel like complete ass. It's unbelievable how 20 seconds can completely decimate you. Then you get 3 minutes to recover. It happens again, one more 20-second sprint with the perfect amount of resistance. And you really feel like ass. And then you get a 3-minute recovery, and then you're done. And the studies on that shows that that's more effective across the board, blood pressure, resting heart rate, belly fat, all the metrics that you would want to be tracking. That's more effective 3 times a week than 5 times a week, 30 minutes at a steady state jog. So the typical recommendation, which is that 5 times a week, roughly 150 minutes of moderate, intense exercise, that isn't as effective as these short bursts with this precise resistance. Now, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the salt bikes, right?
Mhm.
The salt bike's the closest thing that you can do for yourself. The problem we already talked about is our mind plays tricks on us. So I've never met anyone that actually goes as hard as they can. Like even people like me who are on more the intense side, we still underestimate what we really can do. So that's why having an assessment and an algorithm and artificial intelligence to challenge us is more effective. But the closest thing you can do without kind of the Carol bike would be get on the assault bike and just do those high intensity bursts completely to fatigue. But usually you got to do more than 20 seconds because you don't really get to fatigue in 20 seconds. Even if you think you are, you're not. So I should do 30 seconds on an assault bike.
What? Like I'm intrigued. I'm beyond intrigued with this equipment. But here's my question: why haven't we heard about more of this equipment before?
Because it's not targeted for gyms per se. It's targeted more to the individual.
Right.
And ARX is kind of, how can I put it? It's very.
So here's what I would say, right?
And
There's a lot of noise out there. Marketing is a thing. Companies that have big marketing budgets, the really high, like there are companies that are better marketers than others, right?
100%.
One of the reasons why I was successful at Hacked is because I'm pretty compelling. Like when you're sitting talking to me, it sounds like too good to be true. And then I show you the data and you're like, why doesn't everyone know about this? And I'm like, I know, right? That's why I opened up Hacked. And that's why I was successful at Hacked. And at the end of the day, it's marketing and it's getting the word out. So over time, it is building. People like my husband who are not fitness people at all. This bike changed their life, like literally changed their life, because it's no excuse, right? You can't get on the bike for 9 minutes and 40 seconds and do 2 20-second sprints. Like, I mean, if you can't do that, I don't know, like, why are you even here? Like you got a body. Like, what do you? It's like this is 9 minutes, 40 seconds. But like we all know we have to take care of our bodies. We all know we have to move. We all know we have to eat healthy and all the reasons why we don't. Right. But that level of self-sabotage is like, well, if you can't do that, then there's really not much I can do to help you. But that bike, I believe in that bike so completely. And, it's a business like any other. And some people run businesses better than other businesses. And I believe in the product. I can't really comment on the business per se and how the business is being run, but I know for a fact the product's an awesome product.
Where's the product made at? Where is it?
They're based in London.
Maybe that's the reason.
Well, it's also.
I'm not going to say anything. One of my rules is I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody.
I'm just kidding. I'm just not understanding as to why you say it's a niche market.
Well,
that means there's like Peloton was a niche market.
They're going up against. Well, do you know how long it took Peloton to get traction? So funny story. My son, who's now 12, went to preschool with John and Jill Foley's son, Quinn. And so I knew John and Jill Foley when they first founded Peloton.
Okay.
I mean, the kids were 4, it was like 8 years ago. And it took a long time for them to develop the traction, and they had to stick with it, and they had to raise a lot of money, and they had to go through. Being an entrepreneur is no joke. It's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, how did this product in itself not do any traction?
There's a lot of skepticism. It sounds too good to be true. It sounds impossible. They need more ambassadors like me, to be honest, talking about the product. That's really what I think is going to move the needle. Like, they should get my husband to do a testimonial and to do a commercial, because someone like my husband who's like, I do not work out. I don't want to work out. this changed my life.
Yeah.
And I have a bunch of clients that can share that story.
I think it's also like a lot of these people who come up with these things, they're scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good at the science, they're good at making stuff, but they're not good at telling people about it.
And culturally, there's a very different, like some of the advertisements that Carol did early on, it was like, it just so did not resonate with the US market.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, it's
I was
too
like,
rich and
well, and they showed people like dressed very fancy. And I'm like, no one dresses like that here anymore. We don't, I don't know anyone that dresses like that. Like, seriously, it's like, And literally my clients would, because they were doing targeted ads on Instagram. And so my clients were seeing the ads and they were literally forwarding me the ads and be like, what is this ad? Like, they should have you do an ad. I'm like, I know. Well, yeah.
And don't come cheap.
I would have, I helped them. So I helped them a lot. I was very close with the founders of that company and still, care about them very much. And I spent a lot of time doing everything I could to help them because I wanted to see them succeed. Anyone who's doing good work, I want to see succeed. So there was a period of time where we were kind of their United States showroom, the New York showroom. And so we had a lot of press in for the bike. And I always did my best to, support them. So I'm not going to stop now.
where else could you find these products at this point then, besides you?
So, I mean, there's a couple places, places have popped up. It's, I think what I said from the beginning, not to not answer your question, but I'll get to it in a second. But what I said from the beginning is like the biggest challenge that we had was education.
Right.
And that's why I really wanted to work together with Bulletproof and Upgrade Labs and, work together with the other people that were in the space because there's an infinite amount of market for what we're doing. But the hardest part is educating people that there's a better way. I mean, people get so stuck in their mentality. So there's certainly plenty of businesses that have popped up. I was inspired by Quantified Fitness, which is down in Tennessee. The founder, Josh, he's awesome. So, I mean, huge thanks to him coming before me. And, Upgrade Labs, Bulletproof Upgrade Labs, they still have some of these pieces of equipment. They took a very different kind of marketing slant. And I actually met with the guy who was running their company at the time, way back when. And I was like, I don't know why you don't market this as a more efficient way to get your fitness in, because that's not what they were doing. And he was like, yeah, we're really more into cellular health. But then after he left me, they had a whole marketing campaign that was all fitness, which was great because then I was on JetBlue. They had much more press and PR than I did, right? So JetBlue had a whole thing on Upgrade Labs and how it was the most efficient way to exercise. And I was like, yes, because then I could then forward that and share that. And it helped me. So from my perspective, the biggest challenge was getting people to open their eyes and be open to this new other way. And there's no shortage in market. I don't believe really in that competition is an issue this early in the market for this kind of biohacking fitness, offering. But it's hard. I know a lot of businesses tried to do this kind of thing, and it's hard to get smaller markets to be open to it. So New York was great because, there's so many people in the New York metro area that even if 90% of people aren't open to do something new, you get the 10%, and that's how many million people, like you're golden. But yeah, there's places in Toronto opening up, obviously Miami, there's a bunch of places. ARX, I don't know how many ARXs they have out, but I know Chicago, St. Louis, San Diego, San Fran. There's places. Yeah, right. It's weird you don't hear about it, but there's just so much noise in our world. There's so much stuff we don't hear about.
Yeah, but it's weird because most of this world wants more instant gratification, right? They want less time in doing their work to get to a certain point.
People don't handle change well. Being open-minded is not most people's strong suit, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And clearly that's
Unfortunately.
not the big target at that point, right? The big target would be the people that are open-minded to getting a more efficient workout in a shorter period of time with efficiency, right? So it's like, well, oh, my brain's just going at this point.
Yeah, and you can give people guarantees around improvements in strength, improvements in cardiovascular fitness. When you talk about body composition, that's always a little bit of a trickier kind of core promise, because that's why ultimately where we've gone with the Portal coaching program, it's all about the 5 pillars of fitness. It's physical, mental, nutritional, sleep, and then communal, because you can't just focus on physical fitness and think that that's going to move the needle
right
in your goals, right? So we all know that. but yeah, but you can definitely give people guarantees around, the strength and the output and all of that, no problem. And people, I mean, in general, I mean, some people don't like the experience of a super high intensive workout. I can't
Some
imagine
people
why.
just-
It's kind of uncomfortable, being uncomfortable. So I mean, it's not for everyone, and not everyone's nervous system is even dialed in for that kind of workout either. So it's not for everybody, but it is definitely for a lot of people. And I do think it's the future because we all have other things that we want to invest our time in. Our time is the most precious commodity that we have.
Dave Clark just walked into the room.
Dave.
Quietly as possible.
Dave.
Come on in, Dave.
Switch it up.
Sixers fan.
No, just an Iverson fan.
Oh, well, fair enough.
So we were just talking about the products that she's used in her studio, which is no longer because of COVID. But she's
Like closed
We'll
completely.
be back soon. We'll be back soon. We had to close in March 16th, and then technically we could have opened up at the end of October had we been able to confirm all the HVAC requirements and then have everybody in masks and only have 30% of our people. Like, it's like, oh, that, like, it wasn't hard to run a business before. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I was pretty glad that I could have gotten out of the lease and waited until consumer confidence is back. These kind of strict regulations have softened. And now I'm just in the process of securing the funding that I need to sign the lease, because now leases are much more attractive than they were early 2020.
So all of this kind of leads to a different direction. One thing that Mike always boasts about you is saying that you work out. How long? 18 minutes
A
a
week.
week. So
Yeah.
go through your workout. I'm curious about that on how you figured that part out for yourself.
Yeah.
And you technically still do it at this point, and how long you've been doing it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So that started, it was like October 2017 when I started using the ARX. I was still doing a lot of other things when I first started using the ARX, because I didn't think that it could possibly be that efficient and that effective. So I was still doing like a pretty high intensive, functional training, like a HIIT, workout, circuit kind of workout. And I still do yoga. I mean, I here's what I do now, right? So once I opened up Hacked, it really trimmed down because I was so busy running the business that I wasn't going to the classes that I used to find really fun. And like when Ben Greenfield came into town, he said, "Hey, you want to go to a burn?" Burn was a really cool kind of high intensity interval class. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to not go work out with Ben Greenfield. But at that point, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months into running Hacked. And it'd been like 6 months where I really was only doing the ARX and only doing the Carol. And I was like, oh shit, I hope I can hang. This would be really embarrassing, right? If I go like work out Ben Greenfield and I can't hang. And it was great because I was totally fine and felt great. So it demonstrated that my cardiovascular fitness was still there, my capacity to do the heavy lifting and all the explosive stuff and kind of hang for that 60-minute workout was no problem. But it really, it got whittled down more and more because I was so busy running the business. And then I just had the data to back it up. And so what ended up happening was, it was like for me every 5 days or so, and then I would mix it up because, part of the core philosophy is just keep your body guessing. So it's like consistently inconsistent. You don't want to get so routine that your body like knows that what's going to happen, and then you don't actually get the adaptation from it. But on average, it was like about every 5 days, I would do an ARX workout. And so every 5 days or so, I would have about 12 minutes of time under tension. And then I was doing the Carol bike sporadically. But the thing about me is that I get my heart rate up because I work at such a high intensity. I get my heart rate up really high while I'm on the ARX. So I get a lot of the cardiovascular benefits just from the ARX, and I don't really need to do the Carol. The thing about Carol is you get the power, from exploding on the bike when you suddenly have resistance. But I had all the data, so I could just run the numbers and crunch it and be like, all right, how much am I really working out? And it was 18 minutes a week that I was working out. And that was, when I had the ARX. And since I no longer have the ARX, I kept it for a few more months after COVID, but I sent it back because it's a really expensive machine just to keep in your garage. And so I've been using the X3. Are you familiar with the X3 band system?
It's like the jump stretch bands, but it's
okay.
a platform and a bar.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's
is that
pretty,
on your website? Is that on the site?
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff on the site, but yeah, the X3 is on the site. If you don't have access to the ARX, the X3 is my go-to. It's a really, really high quality band set. So the bands are super, super heavy, and you get the platform, you get the bar, and it's roughly the same. The only thing you can't do a pull down, so I still do pull-ups, but you could do a high row, you can do a low row using the bands. And so I'll do a deadlift, I'll do leg press, squat, I'll do a low row, I'll do a high row, I'll do an overhead press, and then I'll do biceps and triceps. And that's, a minute and 45 under tension. And if you're doing it right, you can only probably get 4 full range of motion reps. And then after that, you're just kind of like praying to the time gods that somehow you're going to get through a minute 45 seconds without dying, because it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so your nervous system then has to stay tuned, and that's how you get it done so fast. And so it's not for everyone. Obviously, I started this protocol when I already was in good shape. And I didn't have like a body composition goal that I needed to shift. I already was at my target kind of body fat and target muscle mass. And my goal as a 40-something-year-old, I'm 43, is to maintain muscle mass as I age, right? And so that's what I track. I have lost, to be honest, some muscle mass not having the ARX, and haven't been as diligent. I mean, the great thing about the ARX is you got all the data, it's computerized, it keeps you honest. I'm not so diligent these days and disciplined that I like write down, all right, I did the X3 on this day. No pause. It's okay. That's why editing is a thing.
No, we don't edit. We just go
That's just live. All right. Well, now they know. There's no magic. It's all.
People just like to walk into our room here. I'm like, oh, that's great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
How many calories do you think you burn in that time?
So I'm tiny. So I have a relatively low resting basal metabolic, and then you're working out in a really short period of time. So one of the things to educate people is working out is not about burning calories at all. It's about toning your muscles. It's about toning your cardiovascular system. So I don't burn that many calories. And, if I were to go and, run for 2 hours or something, obviously I would consume more. But these days, I don't even really do. Because I used to work out a lot more. I used to have the protein shakes and do all that stuff. And I don't really do that anymore. And maybe that's why, like I said, COVID's been a weird year and a half. And I'm really looking forward to getting back in the gym and having the ARX and having it really keep me honest and be on point. But on average, I'm like a 1,200 calorie kind of girl. I'm pretty tiny. So.
And that's how many calories you consume as well, do you think?
Yeah. I'm about 1,200. Okay. My whole day on it, I think is around 1,200. And I'm really active. So one of my tenets is I move all day, every day. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Despicable Me 2, when Gru, you've got kids, right? Yeah. So do you remember? So when Gru starts to date, there's a scene where he's like on a blind date, and there's like this blonde, and before they go to sit down at the table, she drops and does push-ups.
Yeah.
It was so embarrassing. So we're at the movie theater with like all these people, and my kids turn to me like, Mom, that's you. And I'm like, because I will just do, 20 push-ups while I wait for the tea kettle to boil, or I put something in the microwave, or, I'm brushing my teeth and I'm just doing squats. Like I do move all day. Yeah, I do move all day. I dance, not well, but I'll like just dance. And I do that all day. And so part of my behavior has been modified to just be active and do that all day and move every hour, because moving every hour is really important. Keeping your body guessing. Like yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I had my son in like the living room, and he wants me to help him get more active. And so I'll just come in and I'm like, these are star jumps. And so I'm doing star jumps. And he's like, Mom, I know what star jumps were. I did first grade gym. And I'm like, you did PE, like first grade, you did star jumps? He's like, yes, Mom. And I'm like, oh, great. So do them with me. But like, I'm that kind of person where I'll just like pop in the living room and do star jumps. So, I do that.
No, hey, that's an active mom right there. That's a very active physical mom.
And I'm playful, and being playful is also another kind of secret to success, right? Like,
you gotta be happy.
Don't take anything too seriously.
No, you definitely have to be happy with that. She just saw Black Widow last night, and you just at the movies.
Oh, you paid for the stream?
No,
I went to IMAX.
Oh,
I was IMAX. It was like everything shaking. It was good. It was intense. It was good.
Yeah, and it was a 20-minute delay.
Why?
I don't know, because they don't know how to work the theaters anymore. I don't know. I'm not in the booth. I don't know.
That's so funny. That happened. The movie I went to a couple weeks ago, I went to see Jerry Maguire, and they never turned the movie on. Then they turned the movie on, but no sound. And then the sound came on. They never turned the lights off. And I'm like, have you done this before? I know it's been a while. It was like, yeah.
People didn't know how to work. They were brand new. They were the ones working the popcorn stand.
I know. I tell everyone, I mean, I've been really patient with all businesses because it was hard enough to run a business before, but adapting to everything. And it's been a rough year and a half. It's allowed us to all dig deep and find more patience and grace and skillfulness.
Yeah, no. Well, getting back to the business in itself, right? So
Yeah.
what's number one? This is the first question I was going to ask you before. Is there an actual mission statement that you tell everyone about, and what's the ultimate goal besides education? I think education is very important. I think people need to know more about these things. I am very intrigued about the equipment. I wasn't before, and I'll be honest. Right now, I'm like, all right, I'd like to know more. I want to know.
I'm a good salesperson.
These are good, but these are good businesses also. That I'm like, listen, like you said, it's a niche market, right? You're not going to find these just anywhere.
No.
If we can be one of the first ones, why not? Maybe I'm just, being in our 40s.
Yeah, well, it's a blue ocean.
Bigger.
Well, also too, as we get older, it's all of this tech is even more important because the stuff you can get away with when you're in your 20s and 30s, as we know,
right,
it shifts. So, but in terms of like mission and vision, right? Like, I mean, I'm really passionate about kind of the global redefining healthcare, as wellness and fitness, and that it's holistic, that it's mind, body, and energetic. And so, the mission is to give people a better way of caring for themselves and educating them, as you said, to the holistic nature, the integrative nature of our well-being, and fitness being this capacity to do work above and beyond whatever the baseline health is, right? So health is our body is able to do all kind of the normal processes and homeostasis that we sustain a body at ease, right? If our body is in dis-ease, ultimately that leads to disease, right? And our mind is at dis-ease, right? If we're stressed, our mind isn't at ease, ultimately our body's not going to be at ease. And so part of the mission and the vision is educating people to this next generation of well-being and fitness, and that's healthcare, that we're caring for our health, we're caring for our fitness, our capacity to adapt and respond to all the challenges of life, the physical challenges, the mental challenges, and then the emotional, energetic challenges, staying resilient, staying positive, and having more time. So I have a book coming out in the next couple of months called Timeless in Less Time. And the whole point is, the sense of timelessness, that we don't have to worry about time, that there is this eternal nature to life, to joy, to peace, and that we can achieve these higher states of vitality in less time than we were taught. Most of us were conditioned to think that we needed to work out a lot more than we need to get good results. And that's just simply not true. So if we can free up more time to go do the other things that we're passionate about, whether it's our business, creativity, our families, that's beautiful. So that's the mission. So people go out and they don't spread asshole, they spread joy, and they spread like feeling strong and feeling peaceful. It's true though. I joke, like one day I imagine a world where we can take people's temperature, just like, your kids are sick, they have a fever, they can't go to school because they're contagious, right?
Right.
We should, and Mike, you're going to figure this out with me, be able to take people's temperature. If their energy is too low, they can't leave the house because they're going to go out and spread asshole. If you're too low, you go out, you bump into someone and you're like, hey, what's going on? If you're like me, you bump into someone, you're like, hi, oh, I'm sorry. Hi, oh, can I help you with that? And then they're like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And then you don't spread asshole, you spread cheer and like joy and playfulness. And it's a thing. And we don't quantify it, but everybody knows. They're going to ask you like, hey, how are your spirits? Everybody knows what we're talking about. That level of joy, that level of love, of peace, of playfulness is the thing. And this part of my mission is to quantify it and optimize it and prioritize it, as opposed to like not talk about it because we don't really know what to do about it. And like, yeah, I'm just pissed today. I don't know why. I just want to fucking kill a bitch. I'm like, okay, well, come here. Like, let's do something. Like, don't go out like that. Like, don't be a mom like that, right? Like, I created a parenting program before Portal, and it was called Peace Power Parenting. Because being a parent, you want to bring your best self as a parent. You don't want to yell at your kids. You don't want to snap at them. You don't want to rip their heads off. When they make a mistake, you want to teach them the natural consequence of the mistake. And you want to teach them that everybody makes mistakes, and mistakes are the front side of growth. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of failure. Clean up the milk. And now, don't put your hands like that by the milk. No shame, no guilt, no blame, no being an asshole to your kids, right? And we're assholes to our kids when we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we're frustrated. We don't want to be that way with our kids. We don't want to be that way, hopefully,
In
with
turn,
people.
Raising little assholes.
Yeah, it's contagious.
It's true. Like I do fault myself, and sometimes when I come home and I blame my kids for a lot of things. And my kids
They
are
all
like,
do it.
Dad, I get it. You're in boss mode since you're the manager.
Yeah.
And they know that I deal with high-end quality, high-end members.
High-end
Yeah.
assholes.
Yeah. I don't use the term as
Let's just say high standards, right? High standards are good.
No, not even high standards, stupidity. Let's just put
Okay.
it that way. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, it's not high standards. It's just dumb. But I do, my kids say it all the time. They're all like, your dad's angry. He got yelled at the gym again. Well, that's why he's yelling. I'm like, and I do apologize to them all the time. I'm like,
Yeah, and that's all.
Maybe
And then you're
it's other
modeling
people.
being human, right? You're modeling being human. Like, okay, one of my favorite mantras, like, well, I already knew it wasn't perfect. Like whenever I mess something up, I'm like, well, I already knew I wasn't perfect. So let me apologize and move on. And when you model that for your kids, because your kids aren't going to be perfect, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to be assholes to people at times. And you're modeling how you
they're assholes
take
to each other. I
responsibility.
got four.
Yeah,
So,
they've got great practice. Everybody has
Yeah.
practiced being assholes to each other.
yeah.
Then you
I tell them, "You're
apologize
gonna get punched one
and
day."
you repair. I mean, you're familiar with healthy attachment, right? The statistics are that healthy attachment, it's only 30% of the time it's got to be good. The other 70% of the time, it can suck. But as long as you got 30% of the time where you're in tune, and I don't know if you guys are married, relationships or whatever, it's with your partner, with your kids, just 30% of the time it's got to be good. The other 70 can be pretty shitty and it's okay.
So we're only shooting for 30%.
That's what the research shows. So it's like,
Wow.
the bar is relatively low. So we
That
can
is
all be
really low.
overachievers.
That's
We can all be overachievers and like knock it out of the park.
Wow, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
Part of my job.
5%er.
Part of my job as a coach is to make you feel really good about yourself.
Hey, listen, 31% is 31%.
Yeah, take it. And tomorrow it could be 32%. Hey,
Never know. Could come back down to 31. It's still above the 30.
still
Still
okay.
there. Still
Yeah.
okay.
You got to keep it up there for those 29 days.
It's
Yeah.
all right. It's a high, it's a short goal. That's all it is. How does nutrition fall into your business in itself? Then? How does that go hand in hand?
Yeah, so we take a very simplistic approach to nutrition. We're not nutritionists or dietitians. We've got like the fitness, nutrition specialist certification kind of thing. So we take a pretty basic approach. There's 3 pillars: meal self-regulation, so keeping track of what it is that you are eating, right? So you first 2 weeks, just keep track. So, like you have nutritional awareness, you're aware of what you're eating, aware of what you're drinking. Ideally do some calorie app tracking. Like our portal app has a built-in tracker, so you can track your food on there and get a sense of like, oh my gosh, a croissant has that much fat, that many calories. Ooh, all right, I didn't realize that. It is yummy, but I might save that for a cupcake. All right, cool. Like just so you're aware, right? So 2 weeks, we recommend people just keep track so you have that awareness. Meal regulation. So it's self-monitoring. Meal regulation, that's when you eat at mealtime. So we encourage people to have a plan and say, okay, I'm gonna try to do like a breakfast at X time and do like a mid-morning kind of early snack, a later lunch, dinner, cut off, don't eat after 7:30 kind of thing, 3 hours before bed. But regulate when you eat, so you're not just grazing all day. And then the third piece is meal planning. So you decide ahead of time what it is you're going to eat, and you have access to it. Like if you're going out to a restaurant, you're going to pick the healthy thing on the restaurant. Maybe look ahead of time so you're not, super hungry as you look at the menu. You're like, all right, you know what? I really do want the fried calamari and the bread and the pasta. Be like, just know ahead of time you're getting the salmon and a salad, and you're golden, and don't even like give yourself the opportunity. Meal prep is awesome, but we keep it really, really simple because for most people that I work with, that gets you 90% of the way there. And if you're keeping track, so if you're self-monitoring and keeping track of what you eat, if you do have any food sensitivities, that will start to become clear. If you're tracking, like, oh, I ate grapes, like too much information. I can't eat grapes. If I eat grapes, it is not good. So like if I were tracking my food, I would have realized like every time I eat grapes, it is bad. So don't eat grapes, whatever the situation is. But if people have anything more specific going on, we refer out to dietitians or nutritionists because, we keep in our lane. But for most people, not, eating real food, right? Don't eat food with labels, eat whole food, real food that goes bad. You guys know, like preservatives, no. Processed foods, no. Eat real food. So keep it simple. You know, we work with people like, all right, what foods do you like? What foods don't you like? What foods are you open to? What swaps can we make? And how can we support you for the next 2 weeks? Just give us 2 weeks where we're going to plan out where you're going to eat whole food and then see how you feel. So we keep it really simple on nutrition. Most people struggle with nutrition because of their old, trauma, old relationships, relationship with their mom, relationship with life. And so we're not therapists. What we do is we put together a plan and then we see how hard it is to execute on the plan. And simultaneously, we're working on the physical pillar, the mental pillar, mental fitness. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about skillfulness around mindfulness, skillfulness around emotional regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness. So we're all about skills because as coaches, we're all about skills. So that then helps us make better decisions around food because we'll be self-aware, like, I didn't plan to eat these chips, but I want to eat the chips. Why is it that I want to eat the chips? And then let me use a skill right now. Instead of eating the chips, let me do something else that is going to give me comfort because that wasn't the plan and I'm sticking on plan. And then if people really struggle with that, some people have food addiction, binge eating. There's a lot of process addiction and chemical addiction when it comes to food. So, if someone needs that level of care, we refer out.
Interesting. Good stuff. I'm always thinking about the business at this point. I'm like, well, how do I get you over to New Jersey? But in developing the business in itself, you said right now, you got a skeleton crew. It's basically 2 coaches, you and somebody else right now.
Yeah.
In developing the next phase of the business, what are you looking to do with, like, what type of, are you looking for other coaches for you to develop? Are you gonna start teaching people to do your method and stuff like that? Do you have something specific in that?
Yes, there's kind of,
Because you said you have a structure.
There's three kind of lanes in terms of hires, right? So there's like the front desk, admin staff people that right. So there's that. People who are training people on the ARX, so you've got to have the training on how to work with people on the ARX machine. So you go through a training to be able to do that. You don't necessarily need to be a certified, personal trainer because it's a pretty limited set of movements and things you got to look for. So we're pretty comfortable with the training that we've been doing in-house for that. And then on the coaching side, it's a different coaching training crew. You basically have to go through the coaching program. Like you have to go through it as a client and you go through it and then you kind of place out. And if you're a front desk person, it's really easy to train and go through and become, a higher paid ARX coach. And if you're an ARX coach and you want to do the next level one-on-one coaching, you go through the program, you get certified, and then you can be a coach.
Oh, okay. Going through so as a new, let's say I was a new person looking into going through the program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Soup to nuts. How does it start? What's the process look like? Is it like a regular intake, type of thing? I know you do the body fat, you do it, there's a large, component that we all do. We just have a different method.
You want to be a coach? You want to be a client? Which one?
I'm going to be the client and I'm coming to you for help. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, since we don't have our physical location, you would do a free 30-minute consult. It's all on our website. There's a really quick, like 17 question, shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. So we know, even though we've never met you, we know who you are and how you're kind of self-assessing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we have the consult, we already have a clear idea of where we think we're going to be kind of steering you for the coaching program. The coaching program is a 12-week program. You can do it one-on-one, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. If you're more of a do-it-yourself kind of person, you can do like once a month with a coach to make sure you stay on track. Or there is an app where it's completely do it yourself and it's $20 a month. And so that if you really are kind of at the lower price point, do it yourself, you can sign up for the app and just do it without a coach at all. That's the lowest price point. But we have a pretty tight process from the consult, the 30-minute consult, into then a first strategy session. So the first session is a 90-minute session. If someone's kind of on the fence, we can sell that to you standalone. Be like, hey, do this one 90-minute strategy session with us. You don't have to do anything else with us again after that. You'll walk away with the strategy and a lot more clarity around where in the 5 pillars we think you need to be focusing, and we'll give you some skills and some strategies to kind of level up in all 5 pillars. And then, of course, through that first 90 minutes, we're also going to be encouraging you to work with a coach because we know that people get better results when they're working with a coach. So that's how it works. You get that 90-minute initial strategy session that then dovetails into the 12-week program.
How did you come up with the pillars of what were you like?
They just were, I guess, intuitive for me, in terms of the physical one's obvious, the mental one's obvious, sleep and nutrition is obvious. Communal is the one that I think is the least obvious to people. When I say communal fitness, that refers to anything that we use and connect with as a source, like a resource of joy, of positivity, of support, of inspiration, of empowerment. So it could be our job, it could be our friends, it could be our finances, it could be our spirituality, it could be nature, our relationship with ourself. And so when you go through the assessment, when we talk about the communal pillar, there is a lot of 1 to 10, like how much time you spend in nature, what's your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends, relationship with self-love. We go there, and we're not into woo in the least. And we talk about love, we talk about compassion, we talk about passion, we talk about purpose.
Purpose is, I think that's a big thing. People need to understand purpose. I think that we all need to understand our own purposes in life, and the platforms that we have to pursue your purpose.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things to talk about, because people throw around the word lazy a lot, like, he's lazy, she's lazy, I'm afraid of being lazy. To me, lazy is just when we're disconnected from our purpose, our passion, our purpose. And so when I see someone and they seem lazy, I don't judge them as bad or lazy. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, what you up to? Like, because people have core needs that aren't being met. And then people don't realize that they're stuck. They don't realize that they're out of touch with their creativity. They're out of touch with their heart. They're out of touch with their vision, their inspiration, their imagination. And it's like, I did a high school career fair once, and it was a pretty sad situation. It was like in upstate New York. And I was like, man, we are failing our youth. I was like in between. It was like a call center operator. It's like, oh, you could be a call center operator. I'm like, oh my God, kill me freaking now. On the other side, actually, this guy was cool. He was a music producer. So I at least had someone cool on my left side. But I ended up drawing a Venn diagram, 3 circles. And it was like, all right, first is your zone of genius. Like, what lights you up? What do you love to do? What do you feel like is like your true talent that like you could do all day and you don't ever get tired? Next is like, what does the world need? It's like, all right, zone of genius, overlap. What does the world need? And then what can you get someone to pay you for? You just got to get someone to pay you. So like, and you can reinvent a new career like every couple of months. It's like, all right, I got a new passion. I got a new vision and I told the kids, and I curse a lot, especially when I'm with high schoolers. I was like, dude, the good news is there's no fucking shortage of shit fucked up in our world. We're like, there's a lot of problems to be solved. Like, you look around, the world needs a lot of fucking help right now, right? So there's no shortage of ways that you can look around and be like, I can be of service. I can do something about that problem. And it's in my zone of genius. I'm good with people. I'm good with kids. I'm good with animals. I'm a good drawer, creative, tech, whatever it is, right? Zone of genius. And then you just got to figure out a way to get someone to pay you. That's sometimes the hardest. And you can ask for help in that, because that's what some people's zone of genius is, just putting together the business marketing plans and getting people to see that this is something worth paying for, to see the value and cut through the noise.
Absolutely. That's pretty unique.
Yeah.
You can't hear that. You have any questions?
No,
He's still in shock from the movie. He's still like processing, and I'm not going to do any spoilers.
There's a lot of people who, they wake up, they punch the clock, and they're like, this is cool. And then they get home and they're like, I guess this is still cool. And I have plenty of people who I ask, like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what lights you on fire? Like, I understand you have the lifestyle you want to, afford, but is that really that important? Would you rather feel like you have purpose every day? You wake up and you're happy and you can't wait to get to what you're going to do next? Or you want to make sure you can just like drive your Beamer around?
Yeah, it's all about values, right? Like, what do we value? And we're taught, our culture is so, I hope it's okay that I curse, but our culture is so fucked up. We're fucking A, right? Our culture feeds all this bullshit around what's valuable, like what really matters. And it's pretty perverted, it's mind control, and it's sick. And it's no wonder, that we're facing the problems that we're facing, in this country and in this world. So all of us, I feel like, have the opportunity to be leaders and to demonstrate that there are ways that are out of the box, that you can be brave, you can not do what everybody else does, you can not value what everyone else values. You can be like, this doesn't feel right in my heart. and then do that. And you guys are all about like, 40, like not quite midlife crisis. Like, but it's really like around this age that it's really common for us to wake up and be like, what am I doing with my life? Like, if I were to die tomorrow, how am I going to feel about this? Like, is this the relationship that I want, the job that I want, the life, the legacy that I want? Like, I want to start making some changes to be more in integrity with my soul, with my heart. And that can be messy. That can be painful. That's why sometimes it seems like a crisis. Although a lot of times they talk about like, oh, it's like the midlife crisis when the guy goes and gets the car they always wanted. That's awesome. Like, by the way, if you can afford the car that you wanted ever since you were like a youngster, go do that and drive that thing around. That's awesome. No one should ever judge anyone badly about something like that. To me, it's more about like making sure that we don't get pulled out of our center and start behaving in ways that are out of integrity with our soul. And like, what do you value? Not to put values in anyone's mouth or mind or heart, but it's like, if you value, integrity, you value loyalty, you value friendship, you value contribution, you value service, you value friendship, you value family, how are you showing up and demonstrating that in your day to day? And if you're not, that's the crisis. We're like, all right, I got to fix this. And then sometimes that's hard and you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. I'm glad you did bring that whole thing up. Like, we did get away from the purpose. Purpose is 40 and fit, right? It's diving deep. The whole purpose from the beginning was to dive deep into the male mind on the verge of a midlife crisis, right? Just because a few years
How
ago,
did we not talk about sex? How did that not come up in this conversation?
it's come about several different times before.
I'm just saying today.
I was more intrigued by the business because Mike was like, let's talk about the business. I was like, all right, let's find
Business
out
or
more.
sex? I mean,
They go hand in hand sometimes, but it's cool.
Sometimes.
All depends on your purpose of life. But
Some eggplant emojis on the screen.
I know. But again, so from the male mind, we've discussed it that we've, not all of us, but some of us have felt certain ways. Like I said about before, like I've heard I would hear music back from 1998, Brandy and Monica's, that type of stuff that would just bring me back and make me feel a little weird. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I missing that part of my life? Right. And now even you've got kids. I've got a daughter that's turning 15, and I'm just like,
15.
I'm going nuts because the things that she says, the thing that I had to take her bathing suit shopping yesterday. And I was just like, I don't want to stand here. Like, I don't want to be this, but it's weird because that's my daughter. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing my kids are biracial. They're half Black, half Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
I already know people are staring at them. I already know it. I'm going to get that weird state where I'm like, I'm that crazy dad. But I'm also like, why would I be like that when I was that guy 20 years ago?
What was that creep?
Yeah, I was like being very real about it. Like, hey, listen, man, I still notice females. I'm like, I'm not dead.
Just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you don't look at the menu.
That's all it is. And like, so those are weird things that I've always asked, do females go through it, right? I don't think we've ever gotten a straight answer if females have to actually go through that whole nostalgic or I don't know, regretful situation. Have you gone through that stuff in developing yourself?
One of my beliefs is that we all have parts. So like, you talk about like the split personalities, and it's kind of painted as this pathological situation that like, oh, there's all these parts of different personalities. I think actually everybody has that, and it's not pathological unless one of the parts behaves really in an unhealthy way. I think that, we have different parts of our personality that get kind of developed at different parts of our life, right? So I believe that we all still have the part of us in us that, was that college student or was that high school student who still has some feelings from that phase of life that weren't fully kind of worked out. They weren't fully integrated. And so I think it's really normal and yes, absolutely. I remember really well, like my daughter's 15 now too. I remember being 15 really, really well. And so it is an interesting feeling when you're looking at your daughter. In my case, I'm a girl, she's a girl. So it's that kind of mirror as opposed to the guy girl thing. My son is 12, but I remember so well the fuckery and shenanigans that I was up to at that age. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And we're very open about all that, but it is normal. And it's normal, like, as you think through, whether you have regrets, whether you have trauma that's unhealed, or things that you haven't fully processed, fully integrated. And that's a big part of my work. The work that I do is going into that stuff and integrating it. So I've done a lot of the work. Like when I was 16, my mom had cancer. There was a lot of, trauma and fear. She almost died, but made it through. And I had a boyfriend at the time who ended up becoming a drug addict. So there was like a lot of intensity. Then I was at Yale and doing all kinds of, stuff there, and not fitting in at Yale because I was like a very normal kid. I grew up on a farm and was up to a lot of fuckery and shenanigans. Then you get to Yale, and most kids who got to Yale weren't up to fuckery and shenanigans. And so I was like, why is everyone so boring and taking themselves so seriously? It's college. But like, it's really normal, I think, to remember those phases of your life and possibly have regrets or possibly have questions around like, why did I end up here? Or why did I make that decision? Or is that part of me, sad or feeling guilty or ashamed or whatever? And I think that's totally normal. And I think the more we talk about that, and because when we say things like, well, on one hand, I feel this way, and the other hand, I feel that way, right? Like we all say that, we all know that feeling, and those contradictory values or those contradictory feelings. That's what I believe is like, well, part of us is the part of us that is still the younger version and wasn't really sure whether they wanted to maybe have a family, or wasn't really sure whether they wanted to get boxed in so much, or wasn't really sure if they wanted this kind of life. But then there's part of us that like wouldn't change a thing. Like you would never give up your children. You would never give up the life that you have. So I think, I don't know if that really answers your question, if that's what you were getting at, but that's what I was hearing. And I think that's totally normal. And I absolutely, I'm going through a lot of life changes right now. Like in my relationship, I've been married for 20 years, transitioning that marriage into a different type of relationship where we're partners and friends. But kind of acknowledging ways that we've grown apart and doing it in a really respectful way and still keeping the family together. So I'm definitely addressing, things that didn't turn out the way that I had wanted and hoped, and making some changes in my life to address that and doing it in as a respectful way as possible, because my husband's awesome, father of my children, could not be a better man. So yeah.
Yeah, no, again, like I said, that was the main purpose of the podcast, is from the male point of view, most males won't say these things out loud. And at one point in my life, I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to ask the question. If I look stupid, I look stupid. Like, I don't care. But then it seems like, oh, everyone else was still thinking a couple of the same things I was. So it's not as stupid. But why hasn't anyone ever asked the question out loud? Because we all wanted to fit into that male box. Right? So,
it's taboo.
So that's all it was from the beginning, and it just kind of branched off to even bigger, better stuff. I've known Dave for over 20 years. That's why we've always been trying to do stuff together, business wise, because we've been trainers together for since '98. Yep. Right. I didn't.
You guys are old.
We apparently Mike was in the same circles as us. We just didn't know. Mike was on the other side of the circle, and in the same business. And then when I met him, he came along with 30 of his clients to my gym, and I'm just like, I like this guy. This guy's pretty cool.
I like this guy.
We know the same exact people from 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Why haven't we ever met each other? Mm-hmm. We're all like 10 miles apart from each other. What happened here? It was. I'll say it's like weird. It was meant to meet someone like it. It was meant to be. And I think that this specific platform has brought us to another level where I didn't realize how many people listen to our podcast. Mm-hmm. I didn't think big numbers of it. I'm still not thinking a lot of it. But just walking through the gym, I didn't realize how many of the staff here actually listen to our podcast. Really? Yeah. They were talking about last week's. I was like, really? I was like, you listen to that? Like,
well, that's a good sign. It means they like you, as opposed to working with you and not liking you.
Well,
that's a good sign. And shows that you're a good leader.
And I feel I'm grateful for that, right? I'm grateful for the fact that people listen. I got people like Cliff, who was here, right? Mm-hmm. Cliff is one of those guys that he just applied to be a trainer 3 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. But he's someone that wherever I go, I'm going to bring with me, just because he's loyal. And he's one of the hardest working people I know.
He's good at what he does. He's valuable. He's a valuable person.
He's good at everything. Like literally, what you call him a Swiss Army knife.
He's the human Swiss Army knife.
Someone said that about me once too. Like, what's better than a Swiss Army knife? Pam Gold. Someone said that once. I actually wrote it down because I'm like, that's so cute.
It's a good. I'm very industrious. I actually like it, and it makes sense. So I like to surround myself with people that I could rely on, and I
Yeah.
get it's not even positive feedback, it's just real feedback.
Yeah.
Just being real. That's all it was about.
Well, you're on a mission and you got to have a team and different perspectives and then different skill sets and get down the field.
Right. And that's why one big thing about this year is, and I think because of the launch of this podcast, we've met so many people with so many opportunities, i.e. you are one of them, where I am very intrigued, and I do want to talk to you more about this outside of this, because I do have the connections to build the platform for that. I think it's one of those unique situations where I want to be the first one in a certain area to do it. And I have the connections to do so.
Well, I have a great unit level model. We got great marketing, great training materials. It's a great business.
Yeah, I mean, we have several of those that we want to do, and I do want it to happen before we're 45. It's just because it's like a couple of years
How much
away.
time you got?
Clock is ticking, bud.
I know we got to fix this. We got to get the jump on this part. But yeah, I'm glad that we were able to connect with you. I'm very
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, I think that I would like to have her on with what's her name?
Lauren.
Yes, Lauren. Yeah, with Lauren. I think that'd be a very unique,
Yeah, that'd be good.
a good one.
With that one, we'd have to do in person.
Oh, you or should we bring Lauren or her, or she could come? We could bring.
I could come.
We'll send you an Uber.
Yeah. I drive. Don't worry. I got a car.
I'll pick her up. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
You can
Or
use a city bike.
we could also do, I have a lake house up in Connecticut and we could do like a lake retreat.
There we go.
Whoa.
Weekend seminar. Let's make it
We
Yeah.
happen.
keep saying we got to do Top Golf, right? We could just do
I
a lake.
would rather. I've been to both. I'd rather go to the lake personally.
Not a lake person. I think they're gross, but whatever.
No, this is a really nice lake.
it's
a
in
nice
Connecticut.
lake. It's
Too
a nice
bougie.
lake.
Too
No,
It's really not.
no, it's not.
Is it
But you
Mystic?
guys are awesome. What?
Is it Mystic?
It's Candlewood. Yeah, it's a nice lake. It's my daughter, with the 15-year-old,
water,
is
champagne.
extremely high standards, and she's very, very challenging to please sometimes. Like, she really is high standards, and she likes the lake. So if she likes the lake, I'm sure you would like the lake.
Yeah, I have bad experience with the lake. So
It's a
let's
good
just
lake.
put that.
It's a good.
We can heal some of that trauma. We can
We'll
do some
see.
of that work.
We'll have to bring my own lady and figure this whole thing out also.
Yeah. But you guys are
Yeah.
awesome. I'm gonna go be mom, and we'll
Not
keep
a
in
problem.
touch. You guys are awesome.
We thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My
It
pleasure.
should
Thanks
be
for
up
having
in
me.
in the next 24 hours. We'll see you later. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Lots of
Have a
love.
good one.
Enjoy the movie later.
Bye,
Bye.